Rugby League Back Chat is sponsored by TotalRL.com. Hello and welcome to the Pit Sports Bar in Leeds for this week's edition of Back Chat. We've scoured the four corners of the earth to come up with this week's panel, and what a panel we have for you. The legend at his own lunchtime, that is Gary Schofield, 46 caps for Great Britain, good heavens. Also John Davidson, Rugby League journalist from the Sportsman newspaper, and Matthew Shaw, who's editor-in-chief of Rugby League World magazine as well. We've got all the generations represented here, the kind of the mid-40s, the over-60s and the under-12s as well. So we're looking forward to this chat. Right, let's start with the Challenge Cup final. Where else to start on this week of weeks? Gary Schofield, you've played in one. You've seen many of them. What do you reckon? It's potentially a history-making Challenge Cup final this week. Could be the first non-English side to win it. It is, Dave, and also too, I reckon history will be made, and I reckon Catalans will beat Warrington. Ooh. Yeah, I do. And let's say if you look at that performance against St Helens, Catalans would have been preparing certainly for that victory, and also as well they would prepare from a point of view where the players would have known that the side would have been exactly the same if bar injury, so that the two games before Wembley. I think this is where you look at the Catalans, very well balanced side. The pack of forwards, they hit the hardest in Super League, they run the hardest in Super League. The half-backs are very creative, plenty of pace in the back line. Guizot plays like a second standard. Well, Guizot, however you pronounce it, however you pronounce it in French. However you pronounce it in French, but one thing for sure, he's an absolute quality player, and the balance, the quality what the Catalans have got, they're going to create history this weekend. Oh, right. Well, there you go. John Davidson, agree? Disagree?
I think Warrington will win, but I think it is a fantastic story. If Catalans can produce another upset like they did in the semi-final, that was fantastic. You look at almost relegated the £1 billion game. So if they win, how good would it be? Yeah, you know, it'd be momentous. And especially for the start they had to the season. Was it 2 wins in their first 11 games? Yeah, I mean, I think when Steve McNamara came in, he couldn't stop the rot last season, and then terrible start this season. They've just sort of managed to claw their way back in. 2 signings proved crucial in Josh Drinkwater and Kenny Edwards, and they've just really turned things around. It's been great to see. Yeah. So we've got 1 vote for Warrington. We've got 1 vote for Catalan. Who are you going for? I'm going for Rugby League's the winner. Rugby League's the winner. I'm going for Warrington. I think that Warrington's pack has been going really well. I think Mike Cooper's been an unsung hero for them. I think he will have a massive part to play in that game. Ben Murdoch-Messiah brings the size that Catalans sometimes can bully teams with, and I think Darryl Clark or Albert Ruck as well. He gives Warrington something that I don't know if Catalans down the middle will be able to cope with. I think Darryl Clark will probably win the Lance Todd. I think he's that good, to be completely honest with you, and I think he will be the winner of that. Stephen Ratchford will have a huge part to play in that game, but as John was saying, Catalan's story is absolutely remarkable, and I think for the sport of rugby league, Catalans winning it would be the best outcome. I think having that sort of history, having that historic moment would be huge, but I just think Wire have the edge. Yeah, mate, I'll just pick up on the point there. You mentioned with Darryl Clark maybe going to rip the Catalans apart around the ruck area. Well, the Catalans did a very good job of James Roby in the semi-final. They kept him very quiet, frustrating him. So if I'm honest with you, I can't buy into that, because the Catalans will know what Clark brings. They will keep him pretty quiet. But that said, the way you keep James Roby quiet is by keeping the Saints pack quiet, and I thought that's where Catalans did the job. They won the wrestle, they won around that, and James Roby couldn't do anything. I don't think they'll have that much success against Warrington's pack. I think Wire's pack is playing better at this moment in time than Saints is. I think without Sita Akawala, that is a big blow. But I still think that Warrington's pack will do more damage to Catalans than Saints do. It's a fascinating, the two hookers together is fascinating, isn't it? Because we were talking to Sam Tompkins this week, who said that when Wigan played Warrington in the Magic Weekend game, Darryl Clark had 3 runs out of dummy half, and Wigan won. And when they played them in I think it was the quarterfinals, Darryl Clark went for 150, 200 yards, and Warrington won. So there's the barometer. But on the other side, you've got Michael McAlorum, who's been there at Wembley before. We talk about Drinkwater, but he's a really key figure in the centre of the field as well, isn't he? Yeah, he's been, I think, someone who's helped change the culture of the club. Just his aggressiveness, his competitiveness, he's come from a winning club at Wigan. He's used to winning titles, and he's set the tone, I guess, at that club. And him against Darryl Clark is a fantastic battle. If anyone's going to sort of keep Clark quiet, he'll be a big chance of doing that. It's a great. We'll get on to Warrington in a second, because they're a great story as well. But the whole French thing is a great story, because Rugby League banned in the Second World War by the Vichy government. It comes back.
Catalan are a great story. They were Tres Catalan and Sant Esteve. It's like Hull and Hull KR, the rivalry. They combined together to come into the English Super League. This is their second final in 12 years. You know, there's a lot of traditional English clubs that would love to have that record.
Well, I'll tell you what as well, another guy who should take massive credit is the chairman, isn't it? You know, Bernard Gwash, because all the pressure was on him to sack McNamara around the Easter period. And so I would imagine Macca had around about 2 games to keep his job. So since that turnaround from there, I think Bernard needs all the applause, and he takes all the credit for the way the Catalans are turning around, because he stuck with his boss, brought a couple of signings in what McNamara wanted. So what he has done, he has trusted what Macca wanted to achieve. He has achieved that. He's got themselves to the top 8, played some tremendous rugby league, got themselves to the Challenge Cup. By the way, they are going to win the Challenge Cup. They're going to create history on Saturday. And also as well, the trust what he has put in them players. So the chairman has to take a massive responsibility. And also as well, let me tell you this as well, McNamara, the way that he's turned it around this season, he's got to be the coach of the year. Right,
okay, but what about the fella in the other dugout? Because he's got a big shout for being coach of the year. The way he's turned Warrington around this year.
It would do if they won the Challenge Cup, that's for sure. I mean, look, Warrington were terrible last year, and I think everyone agrees that they needed a change in culture. They need something different. Everyone knows that a coach has a sell-by date. I'm a massive fan of Tony Smith. I think his time was up there. Steve's come in and look, he's recruited well. He's had the luxury of spending a lot of money that other clubs don't have, but they have recruited well. Tyrone Roberts, I don't think has been as bad as people are trying to make out, if I'm honest. And he's got them playing not only a very good brand of rugby, which is massive at Warrington, we know about that and how they love good rugby. They're defending well. They are a mean defence, and they're playing to the strengths. And look, the way he's got Josh Charnley back in the side as well, and the way he's come back to the sport and playing like he is, I think Tom Lynam's improved drastically. I think the players that were falling short under Tony Smith are now some of their best players. Mike Cooper didn't have a great year last year. Look at him now; he's back around the England mix, isn't he? So I think as a coach and as a head coach, Steve Price has done a massive good job.
Let's do the crystal ball. They've been given the Leinster Trophy Award since 1946. Billy Stott won it the first year. I can go through all of them if you want at some point, but we won't do that because it'll bore everyone. Who is going to be the Leinster Trophy winner in 2018? Where do you see the key battles? Who's going to have the key influence?
I think Stefan Ratchford for me. I think he's having a great season. I mean, if Ben Barber wasn't the sort of shoe-in for the men of steel, I think Stefan Ratchford would be right up there, and I think his stats sort of back that up. And I think that battle in the number 1 jumper will be very key, because he not only in defence but also coming in, playing into the line, setting up the last plays. He's crucial.
Yeah. You think Gigot is going to be the man? Oh no, you were telling me Sammy Sonny Lange.
Yeah,
you think Sammy Sonny Lange?
I'm going for Lange without a doubt.
Why?
Because
he's a big fella, isn't he? He's a bit like you.
I'll tell you what, Dave. He's an old-fashioned standoff. He's built like he looks forward, but he's an old-fashioned standoff. And them forwards will lay the platform for him. By the way, there's loads of contenders for the Leinster. You mentioned Gigot, there you mentioned Radford, there's Chris Hill.
We mentioned Gigot.
There's Cassidy, there's the 2 hookers in Clark and McAlorum. So, but for me, it's Lange himself. I think he will totally dictate from there. He'll take a lot of pressure off Drinkwater. Drinkwater will take charge of a quality kicking game, but I reckon he'll be the guy who'll be setting up all the tries, and he's just an old-fashioned standoff. Like him very much, and he's going to be the star of the weekend.
Okay, we've not had a Frenchman win. Obviously, we've not had a Frenchman win the Leinster. I think we've only had about 3 Aussies win the Leinster Trophy. Brett Kenny being the first in 1985. Do you remember that? Fanny?
Yeah, thanks for reminding that.
So, who's your man? Who's your Leinster Trophy winner?
For me, Darryl Clark, but I do think, as Schoey said, there are a lot of contenders. Kevin Brown's playing really well at the minute.
Wouldn't it be a great story? Because he played in the 2004 final, got knocked out, was walking around Cardiff. We did the story on the BBC last year, so it's an old story, but got knocked out and was found by one of his teammates walking around. And then in 2009, had to limp off with a leg injury. A third time, lucky, that would be a brilliant story.
It would, and look, his career's coming to the closing stages. Will he be in Super League next year? I don't know. I don't know what. I think he's under contract, isn't he? But I don't know what's going to happen there. So I think he's another contender. I think another one. Talk about what me and Schoey were. Ben Murdoch-Massia. I think he can really damage Catalans' pack. I really do. And I think if he does that, the way that the Dragons have got rave reviews, I think that will be noticed, and I think he's an outside contender. On the other side, Sam Mower, because I think Sam Mower is massive.
He is massive.
He is massive.
He's very big, yeah.
He is I wouldn't let him run at me, I'll tell you that, Dave. But I think he's massive for them as well. So if Catalans were to be on the right side of the result, I think he'll be in with a really big shout as well.
We're looking at a crowd of possibly 50,000. This could be the smallest crowd for many a year in a Wembley Cup final, and obviously part of that is because it's Catalan Dragons, and they're only going to bring been, say, 5,000 people. If St Helens had been there, then there might have been another 15, 20 on top of that. But is this now a time to look at the whole Challenge Cup Wembley final and say, should we change it as a result of this year? Is this ground zero for the Challenge Cup final?
I think there's definitely the argument, and you've had this recently, about moving it back to May, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I think keeping it Wembley, it does make it a real event, and I think you've got to sell it a year out regardless of who's playing. Come to Wembley. This is your day out in London, because obviously London doesn't have many big rugby league events at the moment. Occasionally the odd test here and there, a World Cup game, but I think you've got to sell it as the. Well, I know I'm bringing my my parents down. They're coming to the game.
All the way from Australia?
Yeah, they're flying over. No,
Whoa.
they happen to be in the country at the moment, but they've never been to Wembley, and everyone I know around the world knows Wembley.
Yeah.
It's the elite in any sport. So I think you've got to sell it as an occasion, like the grand final, whether your team's playing or not. Get down to this game in the sun and see a fantastic game.
And just from an Aussie point of view, the Aussies come over here and they say, yeah, we stay up late till night, we used to watch the game, the Sterling and Kenny final in '85, etc., etc. Does it still have the same resonance in Australia now?
I think it does. I think with the fact that Super League has much more coverage now in Australia, you can watch all the Sky games on Fox League, and just with the way that the world has shrunk in terms of communication and social media. So I think, Wembley still has a real cachet. And we saw this 2 years ago with the Australian team, Cameron Smith and the like, when they played at Anfield, playing at Anfield, because Liverpool is such a big club in Australia from the 80s, that just holds a massive cachet for players as well as fans to go and see games.
Yeah, the whole Wembley thing, where are we at with it going?
Oh, he's got to stay at Wembley, but also to just mention it with Dave there. Well, himself and his parents, the Manly Warringah fans, aren't they? So they've not seen a lot of quality this year, Woodsy, I'll tell you. And there's going to be a quality game there at Wembley on Saturday. So it should be at Wembley. The date should be changed. There's no two ways about that. It should revert back to the May time. So that's the only debate. What from a point of view should be definitely changed. Wembley stays there, and everybody should embrace, because this is going to be a quality game of Rugby League on Saturday. Yeah. It's for Rugby League in general. Rugby League should be the winner. It's the biggest cup competition in World Rugby League. All supporters should support it. It's a fact of the matter is, every Rugby League fan, that's what it stages. Wembley's there for us. Get down and see it.
And that's where the challenge is, Dave. I don't think that the sport does a good enough job now of connecting the fans with these big events. I really, really don't. It depends who you ask, but you can go back all the way, I think, to the first Super League split back around the turn of the century. It was 98, was it, or 97?
96.
96. I was close enough. I was barely even born. I just think that a lot of people felt distanced from the big events, from your Challenge Cup final, because they didn't feel a part of the sport anymore. That your clubs, your heartland clubs that weren't involved at the time, your likes of Dewsbury and so on and so forth. I don't think the fans really felt like they were a part of the sport at that point. So I think we've got to find a way to connect the fans, make them feel part of the occasion, and then if a Catalans do get in the future, if a Toulouse or a Toronto get in, that isn't an issue. We've got to get more neutrals, and there were in Bolton, by the way. There were a fair few. We're talking about a different size venue here, and ultimately we all want to stay at Wembley. I think there are not many that would argue that we should move away, but we have to justify that by getting big crowds. And I think if it's 50,000, I do think that's a concern, and I think it proves that we have to start making sure that we tap into fans more often.
But we get upset. I mean, we're probably guilty of getting too obsessed with, not going to be a great crowd. I mean, your city at the moment, Sheffield, 98. They played in front of not a great crowd at Wembley, but nobody says, that was a poor Wembley year because there wasn't a big crowd there. Everyone says that's one of the best Wembleys ever because Sheffield won it, and it was a great upset. So, I mean, we're probably guilty of getting dragged too much in this. If it's a great game, if Catalan win, or if Warrington win and it's a great game, nobody will remember what the crowd was.
Exactly. I think, and I'm guilty of this myself, sometimes we get too fixated on crowd sizes and, this club isn't bringing enough fans or whatever, but it is about the occasion and the contest. And Sheffield Eagles is a fantastic example. I mean, maybe the best Challenge Cup final ever.
Well, the biggest upset, best was
one of the best stories.
1985, remember that one? 28-24, Wigan won. Glorious day. A couple of missed kicks by his mate. But sorry, anyway.
But one of the best stories, and I think that's a David Goliath kind of battle can throw that up. So we shouldn't, just because it's Catalans, think it's going to be a terrible final and not many people go. I think we should be positive and look forward to it.
Yeah.
You see, also as well, Dave, it's a great point what Matty made and all, because when Catalans qualified around about 3 weeks ago, the big point from Ralph Rimmel was, I need to go to Plan B. Hold on, why do you need to go to Plan B? Because quite simple, Catalan's in the draw every year. They could get to Wembley every year, you know, if the draw's right from there. But they have made it this year. As Matty says, the Rugby League Challenge Cup final is for all Rugby League fans, whether in Yorkshire, Lancashire, Cumbria, wherever. You know, so everybody should be getting down. It doesn't matter who gets there. It's a celebration, the biggest cup competition in the world, the best cup competition in the world, and it's for everybody. So, just because Catalan's got there, why are we saying, oh, we need a plan B? You know, the marketing needs to be a lot better.
Yeah, but it's going to be a good game. As a footnote,
it's going to be a quality game.
It's going to be a good game, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It'll be fantastic. It will be a fantastic celebration, but more people should be there. Yeah. I get what you're saying on the crowds, Dave. I agree quite largely, but that said, when it's such a big game with so many empty seats, this is arguably in some people's eyes the biggest game of the calendar year. For some will argue grand final. I personally would as well. Irrelevant. It is one of the two biggest games of the year. A stack of empty red seats isn't a good look.
No. So that's Wembley. Wow, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be Warrington against Catalan. It could be one of the best Wembley finals of all time. Who knows? And that's Saturday. We'll be talking a lot more about what's been happening in the Super 8s in the next part of Back Chat in just a moment's time. Rugby League Back Chat is sponsored by TotalRL.com. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Back Chat from the Pit Sports Bar in Leeds. Let's move on to not looking ahead but looking back. The Super 8s, we've had 2 weeks of the Super 8s now. Where are we balanced? Top 4. I tell you what, Gary, your old team, Huddersfield, because you coached them for a while, didn't you, Huddersfield Giants? And they can make the 4 points behind Warrington. They could still make a real push for a grand final this year.
They can indeed, and you know what as well, you know what's pretty interesting? I wonder what Rick Stone's thinking now he's back home in Australia thinking, I tell you what, why don't the players play like this for me? Well, I'll tell you the reason why, because Rick Stone, all the ability what them players had, all the enjoyment what them players wanted to have as a rugby league players, he took it away from them. He just turned them into robots. They didn't want to play for that coach. Wolford's coming. By the way, also as well, Foreman's done a great job when he was in charge when Wolford couldn't get his visa. And all Wolford has done is managed them, seen how good them players are as individuals, how good they can be as a team collectively. The proof's in the pudding. What is it now? 11 from 12 or something like that. But all he has done is managed them, let them express themselves. You look at one player certainly, Lee Gaskell. Gaskell for the last 2 years has been pretty useless, to be honest with you. Under Rick Stone's management, under Rick Stone's, coaching. But now Wolford's let them express themselves, play with that smile on the face, and they're getting results. And I tell you what, don't rule out Huddersfield knocking on the door of that top 4.
Yeah, Warrington look vulnerable because they're in a Challenge Cup final. They'll have to play a league game after the Cup final. They've still got to play against Huddersfield and they've got to play away at St Helens. So if anyone's going to slip, then you'd say Warrington of the top 4 are the most likely to slip?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's still a big ask. I mean, they're 4 points. Warrington need to lose at least two more games. I can't really see it happening, but the run that Huddersfield's on is remarkable. I mean, I disagree with Schoey a lot, and I don't think Simon Wolford's changed that much than Rick Stone, but he has given them a harder edge. You know, they're defensively, they're a lot better, and they are playing for him, particularly with the way he's got the best out of Danny Brough, which obviously Rick Stone didn't. That's been a big difference for them.
Davo, you're saying Simon Wolford's in the same level as Rick Stone? You're kidding, aren't you? Look at the results. Look at the way Huddersfield are playing. Look at the attractiveness of the way they're playing. Rick Stone literally stopped them players playing smart, attractive rugby league and turned them into boring rugby league players. There was no expression of freedom and no enjoyment there.
Well, I think Wolford's had the benefit of a lot of players coming back from injury with Cudjoe, McGilvery and quite a few others, but but
Rick Stone had them as well for periods of time.
Not at the start of this season.
How bad were they?
They made the top 8 last year when he had them fit. This year is obviously different, but I don't think there's been a huge amount of change. I don't think the style's changed, but Wolford is a lot harder edge, more competitive coach. I think Rick Stone's been accused of probably being too nice in the past, and Wolford is, a a lot more edgier, and probably a few home truths that made a big difference.
I think you're both missing the point. Actually, I think Mark Andrews, the head of performance, has been the big person in all of that.
Matt, let's not get into that. That's all about videos and analysis, analysing, I should say, from a point of view. Let's not get into that. Let's not get into that. No way, mate. Let's not get into that performance director.
The minute he came into the club,
let's get into
the minute he came into the club, players looked fitter. They lost weight. Defensively, they completely changed that structure. The players didn't look like they knew what they were doing defensively under Rick, in my opinion. Then Mark came in, and everyone is quite clear with what they're doing. The defence has improved drastically. So for me, he's been the key person. I think John's right. Leroy Cudjoe coming back has been huge. It's got the best out of Jermaine McGilvery, who as well struggled after the World Cup because he had injuries and whatnot. But I genuinely think that you can pick whoever you want. I think Mark Andrews had a huge difference there, and there have been other factors. But I tell you what, the other things point out. Warrington's game after the Challenge Cup final, Huddersfield.
Yeah. That's straight.
Unless I've got that wrong, I'm fairly certain it's Huddersfield.
Let me just tell you this then. Let me just tell you this. Performance directors and coaches don't make players. It's players who make coaches. And all Walford has done, with the leadership as well with Chris Foreman, he has identified how good this side are as individuals and can be as a team collectively. All he has done is let them express themselves, let them enjoy the rugby league. It's as simple as that. So it's an easy formula. Playing smart, attractive rugby league. The talent what these players have got, don't take it away from them. All right, they may not have been fitter, all right, a little bit, but they'll have a conditioner for that. But one thing for sure, they have been allowed to express themselves as rugby league players, and the proof's in the pudding.
Okay, Gary Schofield on his soapbox. So the top four. So that's the only conundrum now. Whether it's going to be Huddersfield or Warrington, you'd suggest who's going to make the top four? Saints, Wigan, Cass, nailed on, absolutely. But what about the middle eights? Wow, the qualifiers. Wow.
They've been fantastic. I mean, the first game, Widnes beating London, really just sort of opened.
London beating Widnes.
Sorry, yes. I think that would have been nice for Vikings fans. But yeah, that's just opened the cat's out of the bag since then. And then Hull losing to Salford. I think probably most people didn't expect that at Craven Park. And then Toronto losing, which was a seesawing game. It was fantastic. I mean, you really sort of heart in your mouth at times. It's open season. Leeds, Hull in 2 weeks. That's a huge game at Headingley.
Yeah.
Hull win that, and then Leeds are back sort of in a bit of trouble.
Leeds win that, and they're home and hosed.
Exactly.
I mean, they've responded well, Leeds, haven't they? In terms of results, certainly. It was tough against Toulouse. They shipped a lot of points late on against London, but they've got 2 wins that looks to have settled the ship.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that both games would go the way they have with Leeds. I thought that they would score enough points to win the game, but I thought they conceded a lot. I've said that all along, and I still think the issues are there. I think the results are papering over the cracks, if I'm honest. I mean, you can't concede. They conceded 32 to London and 22 against Toulouse. These are championship teams, good championship teams, very good championship teams who could actually push for Super League next year. That's concerning for me, Dave. There's still something not right there. Look, Leeds are going to be okay, but I think they've got a massive off-season of recruitment. I think it was Jamie Peacock who questioned before the Challenge Cup semi-final whether the players that are in that semi-final squad were Leeds Rhinos players.
Well, they were Leeds Rhinos. A lot of them were Leeds Rhinos grand final winners.
They were. But is there a general consensus that they overachieved? I think there was. I think we all agree that Leeds overachieved last year. I think they're underachieving this year. I don't think that this is a team that should be in the bottom 4. I don't think that this is a team that is going to, year after year, compete to finish anywhere near the top of Super League.
I think that's right. I think they've been due a rebuilding phase for a while, and last year sort of no one really expected, and 2016 that was the start of that. Obviously they've had those retirements with Sinfield, Peacock, and then Burrow and Maguire going. I think they really need this rebuilding phase to kick in, and obviously JGB could leave. There's a few Ryan Hall's going. It's time for a new Leeds, and this is what happens in the Salary Cup sport. You can't consistently compete unless you're Melbourne Storm, for 10-12 years at the very elite. You have to have some down years, and I think that's what they're heading towards.
Yeah, I think you used the phrase papering over the cracks. That's all Leeds need at the moment, isn't it? They just need to get through this. That's papering over the cracks will do for the moment.
It will, simple as that. And they are lacking total quality to certain degree in the top 4 of Super League, which has shown this year, but they'll have enough to get through. They'll certainly make the top 3. I'm looking at Leeds, Hulkinson Rovers and Salford, the way they have started off. The £1 million game, I guess you could say, is between 3 sides in Toronto, Toulouse and
Widnes.
London. Widnes.
London.
Yeah, London. Then forget about Widnes.
How dismissive were you of Widnes then?
Forget about Widnes. Halifax out in there, they're delighted to be there, obviously picking it up, but forget about Widnes. Dave, Widnes are absolute garbage. They are garbage. Too many journeymen. The young kids are good, but too many journeymen, and they say, forget about Widnes, they're getting relegated. But the £1 million game between them three leagues, LKR and Salford will make the top three.
What we need, Gary, on this programme is for you to get off the fence a little bit more. We need an opinion. Yeah,
but Dave, you know what? I know, because at times, the Widnes fans give me a bit of stick, but at the end of the day, I'm only giving an opinion on what I'm seeing. And also as well, it's like when you look at Hull FC, it's the same with their fans and the Widnes fans at this moment in time. They need to get their head out of the sand, because both them sides, you look at the way Hull are going, and I don't blame Lee Radford for that, it's them players. He's put confidence in them players, he's put the trust in them players, and they are playing garbage. And it's exactly the same as what Widnes are doing. And as I say, the fans, if they think they are watching quality rugby league, as I've said, get your head out of the sand, because the both teams at this moment in time are letting that club down.
Matt, your team Toronto beat your team Halifax in the first weekend of the eights, but then Toronto obviously slipped up OKR. Good performance. Does that damage them psychologically, or are they going to bounce back?
No, I thought I thought Halifax was a banana skin for them. I thought once they got through that, especially with Hull KR losing to Salford, I thought it almost became a bit of a free hit, because it was a Super League team. They got the win. There was no real pressure on them to not be 0-2. So I think they're okay. I still think they'll have enough to go up. I'd be shocked if they don't make the £1 million game at the very worst. That said, I think it maybe did prove to some who just think that they're dead certs to go up that they're not. I don't think that they will definitely be in Super League next year, unlike some. That said, I still think that if they get a home £1 million game tie, they will go up. And beyond that, you look at the fixtures they got left, I still see them winning another 3, which might be enough to get them automatic. Because I think Salford and Leeds will beat everyone, and then they'll play each other, which means that there might be a chance for someone to get that third spot with 4 wins.
Yeah. Elephant in the room, but if Toronto are at home in the £1 million game, do they get home advantage? Likewise Toulouse?
I think they should. Yeah, I think it'd be unfair if not.
I thought Ralph Rimmer had confirmed it.
Has he confirmed?
I thought Ralph confirmed that whoever finishes 4th, it will be at that venue.
It's 4 or 5 weeks away, so there's still every chance minds could be changed again.
It could be Widnes.
Yeah. Who are your 4? Who are your 3 to go up, and who's going to win the £1 million game?
I think Leeds, Salford, and Hull KR will be the 3.
Yeah.
I think Toronto will be 4th or 5th. Probably most likely Widnes.
Yeah.
I think unless Widnes fall to Toulouse and Halifax, which is possible. They've lost 18 in Super League in a row, last winning in I think March, which is just dreadful. But that's my pick.
Widnes' next game is in Toulouse, isn't it?
I believe so.
If they lose that, then
I think they will.
You'd have to go into Gary Schofield's camp.
I've got to. It's very, very rare that I am, but I am actually in Schoey's camp on that. Don't see Widnes getting out of this, because they've still got to go to Toulouse and Toronto.
Yeah,
I just don't see them winning.
They've got Leeds at home, haven't they?
Yeah,
they do have a good record against Leeds at home.
Yeah, they do, but they might go into that with 20 straight defeats, and they could be gone by then. I just don't see Widnes getting out of it. There's something. Look, I feel the fans are rightly very upset with what's going on at the minute, 100%. But ultimately, I think Widnes are running it like a business. I think they're one of the most well-run clubs in Super League. They're sustainable. The problem is they're sustainable off not a lot of money, and realistically, when they're working on that, they cannot compete at this level for me. Ultimately, I think if we keep promoting relegation, it's when, not if, for Widnes, because ultimately they're always going to be down at the bottom in terms of spend, and spend isn't everything. Clubs have proven that in the past, but there's a trajectory. There is a trajectory, and if you're constantly down there, you will more often than not struggle. I think ultimately Widnes will go down. I think they'll be fine if they go down, if I'm honest. I think they'll be fine because they'll cut the cough accordingly. They've got people at the top who know how to do that. They'll run a ship that they can steer soundly, and they'll run there. And it might be the best thing for them to start fresh and try and build the club up and get some new investment and so on and so forth.
And Toronto in Super League next year. Wow, that's going to be great for the game, isn't it?
It will be, yeah. And I say everybody knows.
I was expecting a different reaction.
No, Woodsy, no. To say you look at the crowds, what they get, and certainly when you see it, everybody seems to enjoy it. The players enjoy it from there, and also everybody who goes over there, they're having a good time as well. So no, I don't have an issue. Toronto do come into Super League. I think the £1 million game. Dave, I don't know where you're coming from. Widnes are going to get the £1 million. Have you not been watching them for the last 4 months?
Can we get off? It's your fault for getting back and
Dave, for the last 4 months.
Stop. We're going to get Toronto. We've had Super League owners, if Toronto come, we won't sell as many meat pies at half time. It's kind of that, that rugby league look at it. But they got the biggest crowd of the weekend, didn't they, last weekend?
Yeah, their crowds have been fantastic. I haven't had the pleasure of going out there, but all accounts, everyone who goes, fans, players, coaches, they seem to speak highly of the experience. The crowds are growing, they're getting great media coverage, TV and newspapers in Canada. So there's a lot of positives. The weird thing is that we are, the last couple of months, seen all these murmurs from Super League clubs about, has the due diligence been done, what will happen? I mean, surely these arguments and discussions happened a few years ago when they got voted into League One. So
it's not taken anyone by surprise. I mean, as soon as they came into League One, everyone was expecting that within 3 or 4 years they'd be knocking on Super League's door.
Yeah.
So if Super League clubs start raising the problems now, like you say, it's a bit. Where were you boys 2 years ago?
I will argue with anyone about this, Dave. I think that there are clubs in Super League that are scared of Toronto.
Yeah.
I really, really do. Because why is this suddenly an issue now? Why are we bringing all these problems up that we all knew that there were going to be problems? There are problems with Toronto. There are logistical problems. There are various problems, but we all knew they were going to happen. We all knew they weren't going to be resolved overnight. And I think they've probably been more of a success than the vast majority gave them credit for. So I just do not get why everyone's more in it. The one thing I would say is I've been fortunate enough to go out there. Everyone who goes says it's the best thing. Look at Rob Elston's comments this week. He was very, very sceptical, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And upset a lot of people with how sceptical he was over Toronto. He's come out and said, I can't remember the exact quote, but he mentioned 3 things. It was young, fresh and exciting. He said Toronto were all of those things.
Yeah. It's a bit like that panel today and Gary Schofield.
But this is the thing, Dave. I just think people need to give it a go. I know that not everyone can afford to go out there, but I would urge anyone to go out there and check it, because it really does open your eyes to what they are trying to do. It's completely different. There are a lot of things that clubs in this country could and should learn from Toronto.
And you get the feeling that of the 4 in the Championship, in the 8s at the moment, they're probably the only ones with a real appetite to get into Super League. Have London got the structure? On the field, yes. Marketing, not sure. Toulouse, I was told in France this weekend, plan A was that they were in the Championship next year. Plan B was that they were going to be in Super League. Halifax done great to get where they are. Are they really a Super League club? Toronto are the only genuine Super League club?
You're right there, Dave. Yeah, I'd say London, they're not ready for it. Toulouse aren't ready for it. And I'd say Widnes, they're gone. Halifax themselves, they're just enjoying getting the lovely pay packet, which is fully deserved by playing consistent week in and week out. So yeah, Toronto, they'll bring a lot to rugby league. There's no two ways about that. But the only issue, what I'm thinking with Toronto, is that they've played 2 Super League clubs. Warrington, we know what happened in the Challenge Cup. They played Ilkeston Rovers, who finished it in the bottom 4. They're going to have to buy some quality players if they are going to be competitive week in and week out.
Yeah, and they've got to get there first of all, of course, which means they have to win a few more games in these Super 8s, and we've got lots more talking to do in the third and final part of Back Chat in just a few moments' time. Hello and welcome to the third and final part of Back Chat this week in the Pit Sports Bar in Leeds. We've talked about the Challenge Cup, we've talked about the 8s. What else can we talk about? I'll tell you what we can talk about. We can talk about who's going to be winning the awards this year, the individual awards, as we go into the denouement of the season. Lance Todd, Man of Steel, there's been a bit of chatter around Ben Barber and whether the whole thing should be changed to reflect the whole season rather than just one player in a certain number of matches. But who is your Man of Steel at the moment, John Davidson?
Benjamin Barber.
Benjamin Barber?
Yeah. I think his form's dipped over the last few weeks, probably allied to his speculation about his future, and more than likely he'll be heading back to the NRL. But I think you look at over the season and his stats, he's by far been the best player in Super League this year.
Yeah. Gary Schofield.
I think there's a couple in there, James Roby and Remy Cassidy as well at the Cartlands, but I think Bill Tupou has been outstanding for Wakefield this year. Absolutely. You mentioned Benny Barber. Yeah, for the first, you would say 15 rounds, 14 rounds maybe, that without a doubt he's going to win it, but over the last 8 weeks he's been pretty ordinary. So Cassidy, Roby, but for me it's Tupou at Wakefield.
Right, okay.
It always comes back to what is the Man of Steel? Is it the best player in the competition, or is it the most durable, the toughest? And we have this argument every single year, don't we? And no one ever comes to a conclusion. I think we probably, in the end, it's voted for the best player.
I think it's the player who has the most influence on the season. I think it's not. I think that is over the season the player who has the biggest influence on the season.
It's weird, isn't it? Because Danny Houghton won it, didn't he?
Danny Ham won it, yeah.
And I don't think he was the best player that year, but because of what happened with Tackle 52,
yeah,
he won it, and then that came to, look how durable he is, his endurance, his toughness, his resilience. But then that seems to sort of be an anomaly on it, and as you say, it's probably who has the biggest influence. For me, if you're asking that question, it's Ben Barber, because he has been the poster boy, there is no doubt about that. He has been the player that's grabbed the headlines, the player that has done some things that we have not seen in Super League for a long time, and if that's the criteria, then Ben Barber without doubt is the Man of Steel.
But if you're going to influence a season, then you are influencing the winning of silverware. And if Ben Barber, if we don't, we've seen fantastic this year, Ben Barber, absolutely, and he has had this injury. If St Helens don't get over the line in a grand final now, does he get discounted because of that?
I don't think so, because I think they're going to win the League Leaders' Shield. That's a piece of one of the three pieces of silverware they can win. But also he has been the number one player for probably 16, 18 games, and I've seen him play, I wouldn't say poorly, but inconsistently. Some games, like in Hull a few weeks ago, and he still set up 2 tries and scored a try. Even only playing well for 20 minutes, he's that good. So I think whether St Helens win the grand final or not, unless he has a nightmare the next 6 weeks, I think he definitely should be the Man of Steel. But
you go watching St Helens and you come away a lot of times this season, wow, Ben Barber, but you also come away massively impressed with James Roby, with Luke Thompson. So why are we not talking about them in context of a Man of Steel?
Well, because
can we just say the Steve Prescott Man of Steel, we should give it to
but when you look at the tries what Barber scored, the 90-yarders, when also as well nothing's on, then certainly when he destroyed Cass in the Challenge Cup early in the season, there was nothing on there, but it's a long distance tries from there. I couldn't make an argument. James Roby, he should be up there. Luke Thompson, he's been St Helens' best forward, week in and week out. But you mentioned with Benny Barber there, for 16 rounds he has been quality. So we've got another 16 rounds out. There's another up to 30 games, and there's 2 more games to get to the grand final. So are we going to pick Ben Barber to win the Man of Steel because of half a season? And I say consistency's got to be week in and week out. Quality's got to be week in and week out. And at this moment in time, I don't think it should be Man of Steel. There's
an argument for maybe getting ex-players like Gary to actually choose week in, week out. I think that's what they do in the NRL, don't they? They have ex-players, well, you know better than this, ex-players who sit there and mark players in the game, and it's the accumulation of marks that goes to decide who's the Dally M winner in their case. But we've watched the TV coverage this year, and some of us have scratched our heads at some of the players that the ex-players like Gary Schofield have chosen for man of the match in some matches.
We can't do it like that if these ex-players are...
by the way, I've not picked one of them players.
No, these are legends, so that's...
These legends that we can't be told who they are, well, there's no way that they should be voting for any awards, because some of the nominations have been ridiculous. I just maybe I, along with everyone else, seemingly is thick and doesn't have a clue what's going on in rugby league or on the field, but they are baffling. I do quite like the concept, though. I think if it was done right, I think Dally M is clearly very successful. So yeah, maybe. But then again, why do we need to copy? I like the Man of Steel. I like the Dream Team. I'd just stick with it as it is, to be honest.
Yeah. How is it picked at the moment? It seems to change. I'm not quite sure. Do you know
Well,
who's picked?
Man of Steel.
Man
Yeah,
of
the
Steel.
votes by players.
Votes for players.
Yeah,
Votes by players. But then that's a shortlist, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a shortlist.
At the end of the season.
But then isn't there a panel who picks a Man of Steel out of that shortlist from the players?
Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah, that's what it is. The players pick it, and then it goes to a panel of about 4 or 5 different people who I don't know who that is. But then they pick the Man of Steel.
Yeah. Who's on that panel? Who's on that panel?
No idea.
No,
We never.
I don't think
We
it's been
very
revealed.
rarely get told these things.
Right. You're the journalist. You should find out. You should dig.
We ask.
Dig. Find out. If you're going to change it, then how would you change it?
I think.
Or you think you should keep it as it is?
I think it has merit keeping it how it is, but I think there's also merit in a weekly system because, as Schoey said, you can play well for half a season and then still be considered the man of steel, even though you don't play that well second. So week by week actually gives a proper gauge of he played well in round 1 and round 3 and round 4, but was terrible. So I think that's probably a fairer way. But I think that the whole concept of the man of steel combined with the dream team, I think the dream team's fantastic. And just trying to come up with a dream team this year is proving very difficult.
But you see that marking on a weekly system. For me, the fault there is Jermaine McGilvray, for example. I mean, I'm just throwing his name into the hat here. If Huddersfield go on and win the grand final, and Jermaine McGilvray is absolutely outstanding between now and the grand final, he scores a hat trick every game. Then you'd be going, he's in line to be man of steel. But if you're marking it week on week, he would be so far behind. He wouldn't have a chance of getting there at this stage, would he?
Oh, there's pros and cons. You're right. He wouldn't, and ultimately, I mean, he was injured for half the season, wasn't he? So yeah, you are right. It's a tough one, Dave. I mean, the other argument is that if you do it, and it would depend if you did it in positions. I think you would have to do it in positions and then have an ultimate one because you can tend to find that your halfbacks in those situations can end up getting more points because they just stand out the most for obvious reasons. I don't know. I think we're looking into something that we don't need to. I like it as it is, and the dream team as well. I like the dream team concept. The fact that the media pick their players, and you normally get a few interesting ones in there as well. So
it's really interesting about how we, halfbacks tend to get, the bigger votes, and when you talk
So
about
they should.
Lance Todd.
So they should.
Well, if you look, it's really interesting. I learnt this at the weekend. The Catalan Dragons Hall of Fame. There's one scrum half in there.
Yeah, because I've had rubbish for many
Stacey
years.
Jones.
Yeah, because I've had plenty
But
of
everyone
rubbish.
else is a prop forward.
Yeah, because I've had plenty of rubbish.
It's
at
because
halfbacks.
that's what they enjoy watching.
Rubbish.
The physicality.
No. Hey, listen, we all know the situation with Rugby League. It's quite simple. The front rowers, or the donkeys, what I call them, the forwards, bring the ball away from the try line, 40 metres out, and then the pretty boys take over. David, it's been the same since 1895.
Are you classing yourself as a pretty boy?
Absolutely, why not? Why not? The pretty boys, they dictate the halfbacks, plenty of speed, 60 metres out, that's the way it is. But unfortunately, the game's gone a little bit different, isn't it? But also, too, when you mention the man of steel of half a season, people even saying now, the coach of the season, Simon Wilford, he's only been there half a season. People are saying now that he should get the coach of the season. So what's the difference there from the man of steel and the coach of the season, half a season?
I think Schoey's obviously not seen Arthur Beetson play. I thought he's old enough to play against him. But
hey, listen, it's like a Lee Crooks and Arthur Beetson and Malcolm Reilly. They don't come along very, very often. You know yourself, fellas, halfbacks, they're the guys who win the games, who get the points, who win all the trophies. So let's not forget it, guys. Let's not forget.
Because he won loads of trophies. Look, how many trophies did he win? Was it Yorkshire Cup? Anyway,
None.
Shut up. Coach of the year. He's just brought it up. Coach of the year.
It's a really tough one. I mean, similar with Man of Steel. If we're giving it out now, I think Dustin Holbrook by far.
Yeah.
But what happens in the next 6-7 weeks remains to be seen. But yeah, Simon Wilford, if they keep winning, he's got to be
Steve
in there.
McNamara.
Yeah, well, they win.
You sacked him in February.
I didn't sack him.
You would have sacked him in March.
Yeah,
You would have sacked him in March.
I would have. I have to put my hand up. I got that terribly wrong. I thought they weren't going to turn things around, and full credit to him. He's proved a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, and we try to be clever at this time of year and try to go, let's try and find a name that nobody else is talking about, and we can show how intellectual we are. And coach of the year, therefore, it should be him. Justin Holbrook.
Can we drop
Justin Holbrook is the St Helens have led the table all year.
I agree with the calls for Simon Wolford. Can we drop into the Championship and into the qualifiers? Is that allowed?
It's a different award ceremony, but you can if you want.
Well, it's Super 8. It's Super 8. They're classed as Super League games technically, aren't they? They got Super League teams in. Danny Ward, unbelievable job at London. Unbelievable job. They lost Ackers and Bartow. They didn't replace them. Everyone thought Andrew Henderson leaving would be a massive blow to them.
And spending less money.
Absolutely. Yeah. And here they are, second, and beating the Super League team, and maybe on the way to the £1 million game. Richard Marshall, I mean, they just shouldn't be in the top 4.
Well, he should get the award for outstanding contribution over a long period, Richard Marshall.
For Halifax to make the top 4 3 years in 4 is ridiculous, to be honest, given what they're spending. So there's him as well. And if they go up, you've got to argue a little bit for Paul Rowley as well, because at the end of the day, they dealt with a lot of adversity.
So that's your mate Richard Marshall and your mate Paul Rowley.
Hey, but I tell you what,
and Danny Ward, and Simon Wolfe.
Hey, Matty as well. Just going further down. What about James Ford? What a great job he's doing. What a great job he's doing.
You know, we've not mentioned that. We've not, and that's really remiss of us, because we talked about the top 8 and the middle 8. But that promotion battle in League One at the moment is absolutely fascinating. Everybody thought Bradford were nailed on. It looked as though they might get over the line with points difference, and now York are in the driving seat.
Pressure is on there, and also as well, what Bradford have got to realise now, if they haven't realised it already this season, they've got to make sure they play to their A game every week now, because if not, they've been a target every single game so far this season. But now the pressure is on. Can them players handle that pressure?
Yeah.
Dare I say Bradford not going up automatic could be a good thing, and them in the playoffs, because how big would, if they make the playoff final, which you would assume they would, how big would that crowd be?
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
They could have played Workington again, who've done the double over them.
If they were to get Workington at home, I mean, what a story in the playoff final, given it's Leon Price, which obviously the fact they've beat them twice, it's Bradford, and the crowd you'd think would be huge. A one-off promotion game. I think that it would be fantastic if Bradford were in that position. I'm sure they'll disagree. A word on York though, as Schoey said, my word, what they are doing at the minute is unbelievable.
Fantastic club, and they've got a new stadium next year. I think they're in it by May or June next year, so it'll be bright new beginnings for them, and there's a lot of vibrancy around that club as well at the moment. They look like a potential Super League club as well, don't they, 2 or 3 years down the line. But Toulouse did it the hard way last year. Everybody thought they were nailed on, and Barrow pipped them, didn't they, in Toulouse? They had to go up through the playoffs, so it's not disastrous for Bradford at this stage.
No, but I think I'd love to see York and Bradford both in the Championship next year. I think, as you said, York are sort of a Super League one day, and I think Bradford have turned things around. You look at what they've done this year, not only on the field but off the field. You know, John Q, great appointment, a lot of other good appointments. Damien Irvine, who you had on recently, I think he's done good things off the field. So I think they're moving well, and York and Bradford would be great in the Championship next year.
Little whispers about the summer bash and whether it'll stay and whether it'll go. You could have York and Bradford in there next year. You'd say now replacing Rochdale and Swinton, who don't bring the biggest crowds. York and Bradford obviously bring great. You could have Toronto moving up, who I think, obviously their crowds aren't the biggest that they take to that. You could have a Widnes coming down. The summer bash next year could be I really hope they don't get rid of the summer bash. That would be a big blow given the crowd that they could get.
I'll tell you what as well, fellas, when you look at coaches, good British coaches who are coming up, James Ford at York, Danny Ward at London, Marshall at Halifax, I'll tell you what, you Super League clubs, if you want some quality British coaches, have a look at these guys. They're ready for it.
Why aren't the clubs giving them a go?
Tell you what, Leeds need a quality coach. What's wrong with young James Ford? Marshall's done a good job. Danny Ward, I've already gone, to press and said this. I don't want Sean Wayne to leave the game of rugby league. Sean Wayne is a character. Sean Wayne is a big name. I don't want Sean Wayne to leave the greatest game of all. I don't to go to rugby union. I don't think he'll be there long anyway, to be honest with you. But I tell you what, the ideal coaching scenario at Leeds, ideal. Sean Wayne, Danny Ward, Robbie Burrow. Winning there for 3 years, Danny Ward takes over there, and Robbie Burrow's assistant there. What a great coaching scenario there for the Leeds Rhinos.
All ex-Leeds players as well.
They know what the club's all about.
Yeah.
It's only been a few weeks. He's already gone off Chris Chester.
Paul Rowley's the next England coach. About 12 months ago.
It's a valid.
He makes big predictions.
Do you know what, guys? People will start listening sooner or later.
It's a valid.
We can't stop listening.
He has got a valid point on the young British coaches, though. I've said this for a long time. Look, so you've got to say that some of the Aussies that have come over recently have been good appointments. Justin Holbrook is the obvious one. Simon Walford as well. Yeah. But I look at these coaches and what have they got to do? What have they got to do? I said at the time when the Widnes job came up, I like Franny Cummins, by the way. I think he's a tremendous bloke. I think he's had it really rough with the gigs he's had at Bradford and Widnes. But at the time, Widnes needed a coach that has proven track record with a low salary cap and not spending what his peers do, of bringing and integrating young players into a first grade scenario. Widnes have all these academy players coming up. They don't have a high salary cap spend. Richard Marshall just seemed an obvious fit to me. And I don't know.
But if you're a young coach, would you want to risk your reputation? You know, if you're doing what Richard's doing at Halifax, what Footy's doing at York, you know, would you want to risk your reputation with a Widnes who might get relegated and you might not get another chance? I mean, that's the problem, isn't it?
No, definitely. And I think it is sad, from what Matthew said, it is sad that most Super League clubs won't look at Championship coaches. You have a better chance of being an assistant at a Super League club and then getting put in that way, which just seems to be the way. I mean,
Does that record Darryl Powell?
Darryl Powell, the last one, and that was, what, 5 years ago?
There's another one at Barrow, Paul Cleary. He's ready for a big job.
Absolutely.
Alan Kilshaw as well. He's leaving Rochdale.
Yeah.
I think he's overachieved there as well.
Yeah, there's lots of names to throw into the hat, but we're right out of time for this week's Back Chat. Don't forget you can find out what's happening on this channel by going to our website. There it is, www.freesports.tv for all the information. But that's as far as we go this week. Thanks to Gary, to Matt and to John. Rod Studd is in the chair next week for Back Chat. We'll see you then.